Okay, hey guys, it's Asha. Welcome back to Reading with Toby. Today I have an exciting video for you all. I am talking about some 2021 new releases that are going to come out that I am excited for, including, I think, my most anticipated release. I've been trying to look at what's coming out and there aren't too many books that are catching my eye. I don't know if I'm like not looking at the right place or if I'm totally missing some, but I did like just randomly land on 21 books, which is actually perfect because I was gonna go look for more books, but I realized I had 21. I was like, that's the perfect number for 2021. So it's gonna be a chill video. I have some apple cider here in my medicine mug. I'll link this down below. This is a Black owned shop and I love it so much. And I thought we could just casually talk about some of the books that are coming out that I'm excited for. So it's gonna be really chill, maybe not too much information. Just the things that I'm excited about. So let's start off with, this isn't, well, I'm gonna have it split into two different categories. First set are gonna be authors that I have either read from before or I have heard of, like I know about them. And then the second half will be just random books that just sound interesting to me. So let's start off with authors that I have read from or heard of. So the first one is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is the author of The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hugo, which I absolutely loved, and Daisy Jones and the Six, which I didn't really care for, but she has a new book coming out and it sounds excellent. It is at a party in Malibu. 4 famous siblings throw an epic party to celebrate the end of the summer, but over the course of 24 hours their lives will change forever. So I think it's gonna be one of those mysteries, kind of like Daisy Jones and the Six and The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hugo. You're just kind of following along all these characters, and it is following one of Evelyn's husbands that she mentioned briefly, Mick Riva, I think that's how you say it. So it sounds, I mean, it'll probably just be like a quick, easy, fun read. I'm not expecting it to be as good as The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hugo, but it sounds interesting and I like the covers. That'll be good. Next we have Sorrow Land by Rivers Solomon. So this is the author of The Deep, which I have not read. I do own that book and I want to read it soon, hopefully next year. They have a new book coming out. No idea what it's about. It says it's a genre-bending work of gothic fiction. Here, monsters aren't just individuals, but entire nations. Oh, that sounds amazing. Okay, definitely excited for that one. Okay, next we have 2 books from one author. She's coming out with 2 books, and this is Becky Chambers. I read The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by her. So she has the 4th book coming out in this series. I think they're more like companion novels, and the 4th one is called The Galaxy and the Ground Within. So I'm excited about that. Hopefully I can get to reading those books because I really enjoy those books. They're really great science fiction works. And then she has a new series, like the first book in a series, and it's called A Psalm for the Wild Built. It says, one day the life of a tea monk is upended by the arrival of a robot, there to honor the old promise of checking in. The robot cannot go back until the question of what do people need is answered. Sounds kind of good and weird. One of my goals is to read more science fiction next year because I feel like I did not read that much this year, so I really want to read more. So that'll help that goal. Victoria Schwab has a new book again coming out next year, but this one's under V.E. Schwab, so like, doesn't that mean it's a adult novel? Actually, I don't know. I don't know what V.E. Schwab or Victoria Schwab, what the differences are. But this one is a new trilogy that's coming out. So this is the first book and it's set in the same world as the Shade of Magic series. The series is called Threads of Power, but the actual book doesn't have a title. So the Shades of Magic, I read the first book in that. I thought it was all right. I didn't think it was like, it wasn't my favorite from her, but she's one of those authors that I will read anything she puts out. So I need to finish that series. I'll definitely check this one out as well. So I probably need to finish that series first before this one, since it has the same characters. So there we go. So this next book I mentioned in my last anticipated releases for 2020, but it was pushed back because of COVID and everything. But this is Jake Kristoff's new book called Empire of the Vampire, which sounds great. I'm already excited. I don't need to know more. I haven't read Nevernight. I started it and was enjoying it, but it was one of those books that I just put it down for absolutely no reason. But yeah, this one sounds great. This one doesn't come out to the fall, but I think it's gonna be great. All right, the next one is another sci-fi, and this is A History of What Comes Next by Cillian Nouvelle. This is a first book in another series. I read, oh, what is it called? Oh, Sleeping Giants, is that what it's called? The first book in that series, which I also really loved. I need to finish that series. So I think it's following people who are building space rockets. Yes, sounds awesome. Love it. Always run and never fight. Preserve the knowledge. Survive at all costs. Take them to the stars. That sounds great. So next we have a book by Brandon Taylor, who wrote Real Life, which I haven't read yet. Want to read, but he has a new book of short stories, if I'm correct. Yes, short stories. It's called Filthy Animals, and it's a group portrait of young adults enmeshed in desire and violence. A hotly charged, deeply satisfying new work of fiction. I definitely want to read that, even though I have yet to read Real Life. I know it's one of those books I know I'm gonna love. 5-star prediction, so this sounds great too. All right, so next we have another science fiction. This is by Andy Weir. This is Project Hail Mary. He wrote The Martian, which I have not read, but I really want to read it. I'm just waiting a little bit because I love that movie and I've seen it a couple times, like more than once, 2 or 3 times I've seen that movie. So it's very fresh in my brain. So I know if I read the book, I won't enjoy it as much because, you know, the plot is already fresh. Oh, Toby's going behind the camera. Hi, Toby. Hello. So, you're gonna get down? Okay. Yes, so I do want to read that book, but I want to wait a little bit so that the movie isn't so fresh in my head, and then I'll read that book. But this one sounds incredible. It sounds like it's going to be another very science-heavy book. A lone astronaut must save the Earth from disaster in this incredible new science-based thriller. You guys already know. Oh my gosh, Toby. Okay, so he's just gonna sit behind the camera. Are you gonna sit? Yep. Okay, he's sitting. Okay, so you guys already know, if you tell me a book is set in space and it has to do with astronauts, I will read it. So I'm very excited about this one. And then the last book from authors that I heard of / read from is probably my most anticipated book. And that's All's Well by Mona Awad. I'm so excited. She wrote Bunny, which I absolutely loved. I know that book has mixed reviews, but I loved it. And one of my favorite aspects of that book was the writing style. Her writing is just incredible, perfection. Oh, so I'm gonna read this, and this is just, I know it has something to do with Shakespeare. We're finding like a lady who is putting on a production of Shakespeare. I don't want to know anything else. I'm gonna read it. There's a bunch of pills on the cover, so I guess maybe she's an addict. I don't know. But I'm excited just because I know it's gonna be weird and the writing's gonna be incredible. So when is this coming out? In August. So I still have a long ways to go, but probably definitely gonna pre-order that whenever I find out where I'll be living. And yes, very excited. All right, so now let's go ahead and move on to the books from authors that I have never heard of, but they just sound amazing, or the cover caught my eye or something. So we're just gonna click on them randomly. I'm looking at my Goodreads shelf. By the way, I will have all of these books on a shelf, and I'll link it down below so you can go check out the Goodreads shelf and just add them to your own shelves or take a look, whatever. Make it easier for you guys. So the first book I'm gonna talk about is a nonfiction that sounds amazing. It's called The Disordered Cosmos, and it is by Chanda Prescott Weinstein. This sounds incredible. So it's a journey into dark matter, space-time, and dreams deferred. I told you guys anything about space, I want to read. So Dr. Chanda Prescott Weinstein, she shares her love for physics, from the standard model of particle physics and what lies beyond it, to the physics of melanin in skin, to the latest theories of dark matter, all with a new spin informed by history, politics, and the wisdom of Star Trek. So it sounds so interesting. I'm very curious how she's going to blend all these theories together, talking about physics, talking about racism, sexism, all of these things all combined. This is definitely one that I think would be excellent as a audiobook. So when it comes out, I'm going to see if there's a good audiobook and if it sounds good, because I'm not really a fan of audiobooks, but I feel like this would be the perfect one. I'm very excited about this. Like, I think it's going to be excellent. At least I'm hoping. So next is actually a thriller, which I kind of discovered in 2020. Thrillers aren't really my jam. I prefer mystery aspects, but thrillers, I don't know. But this one does sound really good. So it's called Nothing But Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Kaw. It's about these group of friends at a Japanese manor who are gathering to celebrate a wedding. The bride has always wanted to get married in a haunted house, and so they decide to play a game to tease the dead from their rest. So haunted house stories, you guys know I love. It sounds like a thriller, horror, craziness. Sounds great. The next one, the cover definitely caught my eye, and it's called Witches Steeped in Gold, and it's by Sineon Smart. I'm probably not saying her first name correctly, but this cover caught my eye, and I read the synopsis, and I was like, I'm down. I saw that it was a revenge fantasy story. You know I love my revenge stories. Fantasy, and it's Jamaican inspired fantasy, so that's all I need to know. It looks like we're following two women. Yes. So the next one is called The Removed by Brandon Hobson. So this is based on Cherokee myths. So it says, steeped in Cherokee myths and history, a novel about a fractured family reckoning with the tragic death of their son long ago. So I also, one of my other goals this or next year is to read books from more POCs. So I think I did a really good job 2020 reading from Black authors, which of course I'm going to keep that up, but I want to keep reading from other authors as well. So this one we have a native indigenous person. So I have a couple more, I think, and I'm going to keep looking, obviously. And I also realized that my Latinx authors are pretty short. Like, I haven't read too many from Latina and Hispanic authors. That's something else I'm going to be working on in 2021. So if you know of any recommendations, let me know of that. Right, so this next one is another fantasy, and this is called She Who Become the Sun. I really like this cover, and this, like, literally the first thing just says Mulan meets the son of Achilles. Yep, I'm down. It's a bold, queer, and lyrical reimagining of the rise of the founding empire of the Ming Dynasty. Yeah, sounds so good. So the next one, this is one of the first ones that I added to this list, and it sounds incredible. It's another, like, kind of historical fantasy. It's called The Lost Apothecary, and it's by Sarah Penner. And let me just read you the little synopsis that caught my eye. In this addictive and spectacularly imagined debut, a female apothecary secretly dispenses poisons to liberate women from the men who have wronged them. Rule number 1, the poison must never be used to harm another woman. Rule number 2, the names of the murderer and her victim must be recorded in the apothecary's register. Sounds so good. Sounds amazing. And I have, like, a thing about apothecaries. I just find it so fascinating. It's just like science and magicalness all mixed into one. All right, so the next one is kind of like a literary fiction, and this is Girl A by Abigail Dean. So you're following a girl and her siblings after they survive what is called the House of Horrors. So they grew up in a really, really terrible family household, and her mom now died in prison, and they're going back to that house because she left it to them. And so I think it's her, like, kind of dealing with her childhood trauma, and it just sounds, I mean, really sad but really interesting. So I'm curious about this one. All right, the next one is another adult fantasy, and the only thing that I saw when I read it is that it's an Indian inspired fantasy. That's all I need to know. I found out this year that I love my fantasy that's based on other cultures and myths and all that. So the fact that this is Indian inspired, I'm down. So it's called The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. I literally don't need to know anything else. So the next one, I'm seeing this one around a lot. I think it's going to be a big hit next year. It's called How Beautiful We Were by Mboli Mute. Is set in a fictional African village of Kasawa. It tells the story of a people living in fear amidst environmental degradation wrought by an American oil company. But then it says, okay, Toby, left with few choices, the people of Kasawa decide to fight back. Their struggle would last for decades and come at a steep price. Doesn't that sound so good? All these people fighting back. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. My battery's dying, so I'm gonna quickly get through the last two. So we have The Unbroken by C.L. Clark. This is another fantasy, and this one you're following a girl who is an assassin, and she's dedicated to the people who she works for, but then she goes back to her hometown and she's realizing that, like, the her blood, like, trying to kill people who she's bonded to because of blood, is stronger than she thought it was. So sounds good. Then the last book is Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Bowley. This is actually a YA novel. This is by another indigenous author and about a native teen who must root out the corruption in her community. So that's all I read. Like I told you guys, I'm trying to find more authors from who are POCs and definitely more indigenous authors. So I saw this one and the cover is gorgeous, so I'm definitely excited about that one. Alright guys, so those are all of the books that I am looking forward to in 2021. I will probably make another one in the middle of 2021 once I find some more, but these are the ones that have caught my eye. Let me know if I am missing anything because I'm having a hard time finding some good releases. But yes, let me know if any of these sound interesting to you, and I will catch you guys in my next one. Bye!